It's live.
I'm joined from this because I can't read at all.
It's live already. You guys can start.
So, hi everyone. Thank you for joining the banner. Take a question and we can read it. So can we start? I want people to join in.
The last part that you will be speaking about was your challenges with the relationship उसमें जो poking वाला part होता है उसके बाद I'll take it from there. एक second please. Search कर रहे तो चलने नहीं आ रहा है.
So, hi everyone. Today we would be talking about relationships. So we are from Mindveda. Mindveda is a service that provides mental health services. We do all kind of counseling services, testings, and just in collaboration of everything according to our mental health. So I'm Akriti and Isha. Go
Hi,
ahead.
I'm Isha, and we both are clinical psychologists here at Mindveda. Hello and welcome everyone. Today we are going to start our series on relationships. What are the different types of relationships? What are various other components of love in a relationship? So these kind of issues we'll be covering, and I request Akriti to start with it.
Yes, so before we begin our series on relationship, would you like to have a general conversation about relationships for like at least till our viewers join in for a little while?
Sure.
Okay, so what do you understand by the concept of relationship?
To me, relationship means basically a connection between two people, and it can be in any form. It can be between friends, between family members, between two lovers, even between enemies.
Surely we can. So like anything specific comes to your head or any questions that come to your head?
Any questions? No, not that there's any questions pertaining to relationships, but definitely the dynamics that are involved in relationships, that is something that always
Confuses and challenges.
confuses or keeps me curious to know and understand relationships even more.
Yeah, same here. So somewhere or the other, the dynamics plays a major important part, like, where relationship is coming from, what is happening in a relationship, be it with your partner, be it in a workplace, be it anywhere. So we will decode everything in these series about communication, about the attachment styles, about everything that we think about what happens in a relationship. So we'll start today with a very general and basic topic today. Just the introduction about what relationship is and certain terms that confuses us, what love is, what lust is, what compassion is, what intimacy is, and everyone is like always interchanging the terms or using the terms behalf of like, I have this, I love that person, but I don't know, do I love that person? So these are the terms and examples sometimes we also hear that I am in a relationship with the person, but I don't know if I love them or not. Is it lust? Is it not? So any views about that before we begin?
Well,
Just
that
in
is
general.
something that I will be touching upon to have a discrimination of all the things that you just mentioned: lust, infatuation, attraction, and love. But in general, what I can say is that they all fall on a scale. So it's not that, sometimes people even describe them as stages of love, but rather than stages, I would say that they are lying on a continuum.
Okay.
So that I'll discuss a little more in detail later.
Should we begin? I think a lot of people have joined us. So we'll talk about what relationship is first. So what relationship is, it's a strong connection between two individuals. So relationships happen usually in human part also and also animal kingdom, if we see. Everyone tends to make a relationship with another person. Okay, so it is really important for our mental well-being, for our mental health, to have function in the society also. So without a relationship, just imagine your life, no kind of relation with anyone. Maybe we will be suffering with a lot of psychological trauma, a lot of psychological disorders, and even some physical kind of disorders that can even happen. So these are certain things that can come upon. So that is the reason we form a lot of relationships upon. So what kind of relationships happen? That can be of family dynamics, family relationships that we have. It can be between the friends, it can be between workplace environment. We have our colleagues, we have work dynamics, we have work kind of relationships, and even sometimes we form relationships, but we are not in touch with those people, like our neighbors, for example. Some might just be there, we know we have a relationship with them, they live right adjacent to us, but we might not talk to them often. So that totally depends on what kind of relationship we have with. So for example, in prisons also, or for example in other places also, some of them use isolation as an example to have or keep other people separated and isolated cells, that they cannot form relationship. So it's used as some kind of punishment. It's used as some kind of a source where your mental cutoff is done, and those people usually have to tend to fall in certain psychological disorders, for example. So imagine living in a small cell for a long period of time, right? No isolation, totally completely isolation from the outside world. So that is the time you might fall into psychiatric disorders if it's happening over a stretch of 6 months and years, and not getting into the society, not able to communicate with anyone. So that leads to mental health disturbances. So the major contents that happen in a relationship, or what we say that we need to give in a relationship, that is about our time, how much time we can invest, how much energy levels do we have, what kind of efforts do we put in a relationship. So these are the certain dynamics that happen in a relationship. So these are some core components that I would say that are important in relationships. So these terms that we say, okay, we need to give our partners time, we need to give our parents time, we need to give our siblings time, even you need to have a work-life balance. So all and everything in totality comes upon how we manage our relationships and how we want to manage our relationships with other people, and how much time and energy are we invested towards it. So there are, with everything's brighter on the other side, there are always certain things that comes as challenges also. So there can be some kind of difficulties in a relationship. There will be some kind of difficulties that we have, that we okay, we don't know what to do. So that can happen when our especially in our romantic relationships, all those difficulties usually tend to take place when one partner is not giving time to another partner, or one partner is quite probing to the other partner, asking questions again and again. What are you doing? Where are you doing? All these kind of questions that create an impact on our mental health. And then we're okay, what kind of relationship is this? Where am I being bugging at? What is there? So the kind of constant questioning, or kind of constant having that pressure in that relationship, can lead to certain challenges in our human life also. So anything that comes to your mind you want to talk about?
Well, I just want to elaborate on other components that you were just mentioning about. A lot of times people are not sure whether they're in love or not. So whenever we touch upon this topic of knowing whether you're in love or not, there are certain concepts we always need to take into consideration, and that includes love, infatuation, attraction, and finally love. So speaking of lust, in very simple words, I can say that it's an intense physical desire for someone. So someone may feel a lot of sexual desire, finding someone very attractive physically, and that is when they experience lust. So it's more to do with bodily hormonal changes in an individual. Then comes infatuation. Infatuation, you can say, is something between lust and attraction. So infatuation doesn't generally last very long, and infatuation के दौरान the person probably has, in simpler words, we use the word crush. I have a crush on him or I have a crush on her. But it doesn't really proceed to anything further necessarily. Then comes the point where someone may start feeling very attracted to another person. वहाँ पर वो उस इंसान के लिए passion feel करने लगते हैं. They actually start thinking how I can reach out to this person, how I can talk to this person, maybe take them out for a dinner or date. If things do work out, कैसा हो सकता है हमारा relationship. So these kind of passionate feelings start brewing in the stage of attraction. And finally comes speaking of love. So a lot of times people say love in first sight, which is something that I just do not believe or agree with because
why would you say that?
because love is a time-taking procedure and journey.
Okay.
So love develops over time. Initially, a person may start with infatuation, it may start with attraction, but love is something that only happens over a period of time with devotion, with commitment, with a lot of things that you just addressed when you were speaking about challenges that come through relationship.
So when people would say that, oh, I saw him and that was like, I had a love at first sight, won't that be the true part?
Well, if they would have had the butterflies in their stomach, that kind of feeling, so then I would say, oh, it's definitely attraction right now.
Okay. So that is something we can differentiate upon.
Yes, because as a relationship grows over a period of time, so these butterflies in the stomach kind of feelings slow down.
Okay.
That's not the kind of physical arousal that we may necessarily experience. However, there are other kinds of feelings of commitment, of understanding, of intimacy that grow in compensation to that. So that is one of the parameters that we can keep in mind. If there's too much butterflies in the stomach, then it's still attraction maybe.
The adrenal rush that we have is somewhere important.
Other than that, like you mentioned, that there are different types of relationships. Speaking very specifically of sexual and romantic relationships, we again have different kinds like monogamy, polygamy, polyandry, and polyamorous.
Okay.
Broadly speaking of these four types, monogamous is when one mate chooses to stay with another specific, one exclusive mate. So one man with another woman, in very simple words. Then we speak of polygamy, wherein a man can have more than one wife. So these are all very specific in context of marriage as well, polygamy and polyandry. And then in case of polyandry, one woman can have more than one husband. Last but not the least, polyandry. इसे हम simpler words में open relationships में भी कह सकते हैं. So that is where a person may desire or may actually have relationship with more than one person at a given time. Lekin it is generally with the consent of the other people who are involved in that relationship, in that equation.
So for example, if just in a layman language, what I understand from you is if I have a partner and my partner knows about the other partner, would that be okay?
If they are okay with it, then
No, in general, just learning about the concepts and the terms. But
yes. So when people want to take up polyandry or open relationships, what we call, so in that case, the person will first, address it with their other partner, the other party, that this is the kind of interest that I have, and I'm interested in having relationship with one more person, or maybe involving that third party into our equation, the triangular kind of relationship, the love triangles as we call them. So the consent is important when we speak of polyandry.
Okay.
It's not that, then otherwise it will be cheating.
Okay.
So other than that, the other important components of love that you were talking about, giving time, dedication, communication. So when we come to speak of love, it is mainly comprising of three components. So one is intimacy, one is passion, and one is commitment.
Okay.
Of the three, I can say passion comes first because it is very much like that attraction wala part where you have a strong desire to be with someone, you want to be with them, you want to spend time with them, random thoughts aane lagte hain din mein, imagine karte hue about the person that, oh, we'll be going on a date, Bit of daydreaming is also involved in that, but it all has a very nice touch to it. You feel pleasant, you get this, serotonin rush in your mind thinking of the other person.
Okay, someone has written something, I'll read for you.
Sure.
So I feel I cannot love anyone. I feel a great connection with someone and he feels the same too. But I have some resistance from within me. I like him too, but I don't understand this.
So maybe by what you've written here and what I can understand is definitely there is component of attraction
You wanna
here.
read it?
Yes, please. Thank you so much. So you have a great connection with him and he feels the same. So what I'm able to understand from what you're saying is that, when you two interact, when you do communicate, you're able to understand each other. But then you have some resistance. Now that is something that needs to be addressed by you with your individual partner. What is the resistance about? Is it about giving commitment, or is it about him not giving commitment to you? Is it about something other than this that maybe concerns you? Is it about family, finances? Because resistance alone as a word is not sufficient for me to understand here what the general resistance is about. Is it that you have any kind of insecurities or past experiences which probably have led you to fear going ahead with this relationship?
Okay.
Is there anything you'd like to add to it, Akriti?
Good with it. So you can continue.
Sure. So speaking of passion, so that is coming back to passion, and that is when we have the butterflies in the stomach too, and intense longing for the other party is there. You want to know a lot about the other party. वो कहाँ जा रहा है? Yeah, where is my girlfriend going? Has she reached back home or not? Etc. etc. That is the passionate part in the love. Then comes you can say the commitment part. Commitment is when two people together decide that okay, now we want to stay committed to this relationship. We want to stay in the relationship. We want to fight through the conflicts in the relationship. We want to find the way out in the relationship for the challenges that you addressed, the experience in the relationship. Now, to nurture commitment, then again comes the points that Akriti mentioned. You prioritize your partner, you spend time with your partner, you follow through with your partner. When the conflicts arise, how to deal with them. वो setting up पहले से planning up करके रखते हो, and then you execute those steps. Last but not the least is intimacy. Of all the three components, I believe intimacy is the most important to develop in your love life, because intimacy is all about understanding each other. So intimacy is not all about sexual intimacy that usually we use the term in, but it is about the strong closeness and connection that you may feel with your partner.
So
आपकी बात,
for example, it can be emotional also, right? It doesn't have to be physical only.
It can be physical, it can be emotional, it can be spiritual, it can be even intellectual.
Okay.
So intimacy is all about आप कितने अच्छे से एक दूसरे के साथ हर बात डिस्कस कर सकते हो, आप एक दूसरे की बात कितने अच्छे से समझते हो. A lot of times it happens आपका पार्टनर बार बार आपको एक बात बोल रहा है. For example, बहुत जनरल एग्जाम्पल के लिए कि द वाइफ इज सेइंग टू द हस्बैंड अगेन एंड अगेन, आप मेरे साथ टाइम नहीं स्पेंड करते हो, एंड द हस्बैंड लिसन्स, या ठीक है मैं तुम्हें वीकेंड पे ले जाऊंगा, डिनर पे ले जाऊंगा, एंड दिस कीप्स ऑन हैपनिंग अगेन एंड अगेन एंड अगेन एंड अगेन. सो समथिंग that concerns one party, वो बार बार कम्युनिकेट करती है टू द अदर पार्टी, बट अदर पार्टी सुनती नहीं, समझती नहीं है उस बात को. सो दैट इज वेयर इंटिमेसी एंड कनेक्शन इज लैकिंग एक्चुअली,
And that is where the relationship falls out.
So which is why I say that intimacy is the most difficult components of the love, which is hard to establish for the two people. And other than this, depending on आपके पार्टनर में और आपके बीच में कौन से लव के components present हैं, that defines your. It's very hard to find all three components in your relationship. So maybe some of you are happy with intimacy and commitment in your relationship. Some of you may have passion and commitment in your relationship, but the so-called true love of intimacy, commitment and passion is very rare to find, and it has to be nurtured into a relationship.
So is it possible to have all three in one of them?
Well, definitely yes, I would say it is possible to have all three in one, but a lot of effort is required, a lot of understanding and patience is required. Nothing happens overnight, and likewise in relationships also, it takes a lot of effort and a long time for the relationship to grow and for that kind of understanding to come between two people.
Okay.
So if there's anything else that you'd like to add to it.
So we had that subscriber, so she had written a little bit more for us to understand. I'm not able to love him, I'm not able to say love you, not able to commit, and I feel I cannot commit with anyone. Maybe I have trust issues, please, I overthink. So anything you want to add to that?
Certainly, from your remarks that you've made, there are a lot of other things that need to be probed and addressed. So it will be very hard for us to answer with this little information. It's good. I appreciate that you're able to, introspect that there may be some kind of fears in you and you are having a lot of overthinking along with it. But that doesn't necessarily help you gain clarity. So in order to gain clarity, you'll have to, approach someone else, some mental health professional.
Because like you have written how to overcome commitment and trust issues
and overthinking.
So these are 3 things, and these are vast things to be covered upon.
Yes.
We're not saying that you might have any kind of so here when we offer, we say, you need to look to someone, you need to go out and reach out to someone. That doesn't mean you need therapy for any, you have mental health conditions or any kind of, if I'm only suffering from this, I need therapy from. So maybe just go to a psychologist, talk about general life, because we always you have overthinking, you have kind of trust issues. So these trust issues can also develop from if things have happened in your past. What kind of relationships did you have in your past? Was there trauma associated to it? Did you have did you trust someone that broke your trust? Or any kind of things that sometimes they are solved on the surface level. For example, I had a bad relationship and I moved on from it, but unconsciously sometimes those traumas are heading in my head. Unconsciously when I look for a new partner, I might just think about, do I think about the same thing? Will the person do the same thing? Should I give him the chance or not? So all these unresolved conflicts within yourself become something on a very on a rooted deeper level inside your head. So these are the unconscious thoughts that you're not able to trust anyone or any other thing that might happen in your past, any other experiences. So it's better to just reach out for a help, go out, talk in general. There are many professionals, we do it, and we help you to understand where you're coming from and what kind of things that you can overcome. What is the overthinking about? Where is it coming from? And what is the trust part that you can gain up to? How to build it and how to have a healthy communication. So,
thank you, Akriti. Thank you so much. I hope that helps you in the way you're looking at. But definitely, like Akriti said, and also reinform the same thing that, it's very necessary that you go and speak to a mental health professional, because there is a lot more that needs to be explored from the little information that you shared with us. But we do appreciate you sharing your own queries here. And though there will be a lot more information coming in our other talks every week, once a week.
yes.
But keeping in mind the today's content that we have discussed, if there are any more questions that you all would like to ask, you're more than welcome to ask.
So till the time they ask us anything, or if they have any other question, anything you want to discuss?
There's one thing that I had in mind, and I thought मुझे लगा था शायद कोई ना कोई user पूछेंगे, but it's a point that I'll take up myself.
Okay, so before we come to that point, she has again said, yes, past traumas, I'm over those past traumas, but currently these trust issues remain. So exactly, for I told you, sometimes we can move on in a general life, but unconsciously those past traumas might not let me move on from my past. So this usually happens with us. So the ability not to trust again, it is it is a mental health condition that we can say that happens to every individual. So if I had a very bad past trauma, Like, without even just having a little information from your one sentence, I talked about your past. So similarly, if you give us more information, if you step in for little more productive time where we would like to understand you, so maybe we could resolve all that. So that is something that you can come in or just look upon with any other mental health professionalist. So anything you have to add to?
It's just like, once bitten, twice shy. So it's natural for you to feel this way, whatever
Yes.
your fears are, it's natural for you to feel, because you're expressing that you've already had past traumas. However, like Akriti also mentioned, sometimes things get resolved on a superficial level. So that is something that needs to be taken care of. And at the end of the day, we all have to learn to overcome our fears. That is how we grow
Yes.
in life, in relationships. So if this is a fear that you've not been able to overcome on your own, then go ahead and take help from the people who can help you overcome it.
Very well explained for that, and hope we can help you through later, and some side of insight would have been provided to you. So I don't see any other questions. You want to go ahead with what you were telling us?
Yes, sure. So one of the very nice points that I wanted to bring up here was about obsession. So when does someone become an obsessed lover?
Okay. What example can you give me where you tell me I've been an obsessed lover?
Okay, so while an obsessed lover will have the traits that we just discussed about the components of love, like intimacy भी होगी, passion भी होगा, commitment भी होगा, आपके अलावा वो और किसी और की तरफ देखेगा भी नहीं. Unfortunately, वो उस continuum पे जिसकी हम बात कर रहे थे, उसमें एक extreme side पे आ जाएगा. So while a little bit of everything is fine and healthy, हम जो भी करते हैं जब तक हम moderation में करते हैं, it is good, it is healthy. Similarly, the components that we discussed, they also suit the relationship fine till the time they are in moderation. An obsession becomes when the person is throughout the day thinking about that person. Little bit of daydreaming is fine. Little bit of fantasizing is fine. But for that person, his or her world starts revolving around the other party, the other partner.
So for example, if I am texting my boyfriend or my husband constantly throughout the day, so is it an obsession?
It can be, yes. If it is throughout the day, definitely yes. For example, you call up your husband. I mean, I don't know if you're married or not, but then just
Yeah.
you called up your husband, for example, and he didn't take the call. For you, it may be the automatic thought may be, oh, he might be busy in a meeting. He'll return the call to me later. Whereas for an obsessed lover, it will be, she did not take my call, and in their mind there's going to be a lot of catastrophizing ideas, there's going to be a chain of reaction of thoughts in their mind.
Like some examples that come to your head.
They may automatically start thinking, she did not take my call, maybe she's cheating on me. Maybe she's with someone else, that is why she did not take my call. Even though they may be aware that she's at work. But still, for a person who gets obsessed with another person, for them, this is a natural thing to happen to them. And they get so involved with the other person that it comes to a point of controlling them. It comes to a point of, that I am responsible for their, safety and to take care of them. So every little movement, every little change in their pattern triggers the obsessed lover.
Okay. But then that is not a healthy style,
No,
is it?
not at all. Not at all. So if at any point in time we find ourselves thinking too much about our partners throughout the day, it's a red alert, and we need to time to introspect how much time am I really devoting into thinking about my partner, because there are other functions of the day which we all need to perform.
But for example, like just in general, I'm asking, okay, in COVID situation, you were with your partner all the time, and you were in COVID situation all the time with your partner. You were almost together at every stage. So what would that be? An obsession? Would that be? Where would that come on?
No, COVID situation was something that was situational.
Yeah.
So that would not count as obsession. Obsession is not something that is forced upon two people. I mean, in case of obsession, the partner may force the other person to be with them all the time.
Okay.
But the COVID situation forced people to be together.
So did it do an effective relationship with you or not? If you want to discuss that, we can go ahead.
Illusion and infidelity.
There is another thing that I can add on to the obsession wala part. Sometimes obsession, well, while obsession in itself is pathological form of passion in a relationship, sometimes obsession can even cross that line of pathology, and it can manifest into form of delusions. You can say false beliefs. So there's one very nice known delusion of infidelity, where one partner continuously has this belief that my partner is cheating on me. So though despite every time they'll follow them, they'll check their phones through, they'll not find any evidence for that. There will be no evidence, but they will be having this belief that my partner is cheating on me. So while the partner goes for work, the other partner is going to then start following them. Is he or she going to work or not? They'll see that they're going to work, but still they'll be convinced that, oh, maybe the lover is inside the office. Then they'll maybe even try to intrude more and more into the space. They'll not find any evidence, then they'll start creating those evidence. I saw you talking to that salesman, or when she goes to the shop to buy milk or normal groceries, you were talking too much to him, you were laughing while talking to him, which are normal part of social interactions. We use facial gestures to interact with humans, but that person will then start using these clues to create an evidence for something that does not exist. So delusion of infidelity is another thing that we often get to see in clients who are suffering from mental health issues, especially people who have been taking alcohol for a long time. That is commonly seen in those people. So if you ever know or come across anyone who's having these kind of delusional thoughts, do not hesitate to reach out to take help.
Okay, so what kind of help can we offer them as a clinical psychologist? What kind of if you want to explain further, how can we help them? If I'm having too many trust issues with my partner and constantly checking their phones, constantly checking the laptops, if they're working, not, what are they texting, what emails are they sending. So a lot of these examples that happen when a patient walks in. So how can we as clinical psychologists help them? If you would like to little bit.
Sure. A lot of, in case of delusions of infidelity, very specifically I'm speaking of this type of delusion, we get to see it's a kind of a compulsive behavior that comes out from the individual, wanting or needing to check your partner's phone.
But if I tell them stop checking their partner's phone,
then they can't.
Yeah,
they can't stop themselves.
How can we help them?
So underlying this compulsive behavior that they have to perform, they have to check their partner's phone. Otherwise they will not be assured that, oh, he or she did not chat or talk to any other individual today. जब तक वो चेक नहीं कर लेंगे, उनको वो satisfaction नहीं आएगा.
Even after checking, they're like, नहीं, chat delete कर दी होगी, number दूसरा होएगा, switch कर दिया होगा. So a lot of things like that also
happen. So there is a lot of restlessness that is involved there. There's a lot of underlying anxiety that the person experiences. So other than monitoring these thoughts, challenging these thoughts, we also need to work on the anxiety part. So relaxation based, mindfulness based, CBT, these are the kind of activities that we use with clients to not only challenge the thoughts but also to be mindful of these thoughts, and of course apply relaxation as and when necessary, because every time these thoughts are triggered, the anxiety starts increasing.
Yeah, that happens. Alright, if anyone has any questions, we would be taking them, because right now I don't see any questions coming up.
I think we can then wind up if we do not have any other questions, and we hope you find this talk informative, and stay tuned for more, because next week we'll be coming up with more information on relationship, and I hope that helps you all.
Yes, we will be helping you to decode the word relationship, going a lot more talks about it. So I think someone has messaged something. So just last thing that we would be reading upon before we wind up then. My partner still has his ex name tattooed on his chest. I told him to remove it and he agreed to, but just that timing didn't work out. This happened 3 times. The one day I told him
that this is serious and he still hasn't gotten it removed. All right, so thank you for sharing this with us, and I understand that him having his ex's tattoo on his chest definitely
So she has also written his reasons are not being able to go.
due to time. So he's definitely not prioritizing that because how much of a concern it is to you. It is that he's not able to understand that. So I'm not doubting your relationship or the commitment in any way at this point in time with the little information that you've given me. But definitely this is one thing that concerns to you. And like I said, that intimacy is the most difficult to,
Reach upon,
to reach
build
upon or to cultivate in a relationship. So this is where I'm sensing that what you are trying to tell him, he's not able to understand the importance of that.
So this is like one of the topics that we would be talking about, the communication relationship, how to actually communicate to your partner about certain things. So that would be telling about the boundaries and everything and how to develop that. So we would be touching upon those topics a little later, but right now
Maybe I can just add one thing for her.
Sure,
So,
go ahead.
One of the things that I can suggest is maybe you can sit down with him, and like you said, you did mention that you've told him this is serious. However, it would be even better if without getting emotionally charged, while maintaining your own way and tone and volume of it while you're talking to your partner, you need to explain it to him how you feel about it. Why? What about that tattoo is so distressing for you? And I hope it is not that these kind of demands come very often from you.
She says yes, he's over with his ex, but this tattoo hurts me every time I see it.
And maybe your partner may also have
One
concerns.
day I will forcefully take him.
So that's your solution there.
That would not be a solution. The better way that we would suggest you, that is not one of the solutions that you cannot that is something that I would say I cannot impose something on my partner if he doesn't.
That becomes controlling wala part.
Yeah, so maybe you just need a better, healthier communication, expressing your feelings in a better, healthier form, and maybe also listening to his part of the story.
And for example, you
Yeah.
said that he is not able to make time for that. So time is one of the constraints. Then maybe he has financial concerns, that what's the point of investing so much money in just removing a tattoo towards which he is indifferent probably.
So a lot of things can happen. That's what I'm saying. You
Yes.
need to sit together and have a healthier form of communication rather than just imposing something that would turn out to be a bad influence later in your relationship.
Correct.
Yes. So this is how we would be concluding. We wouldn't be saying please go take him to a tattoo artist, but we would be suggesting you to please sit down with him and just have a healthier communication pattern. Maybe you can listen to his side of the story, and you can also be tell him your side of the story in an effective and productive way. So that would be something that we can talk about. And later, if you really want to ever reach out to us, you can reach out on a personal session that we can take this conversation further, how to deal with it, what are your past traumas, how to deal with them, or you can reach out to any other mental health professionalist, if not us. So that's it.
That's it for today. Thank you so much for your time, guys, and we hope you enjoyed the video. See you next week. Until then, keep working on your relationships.